You ever felt like you was in total control over nature? Being an outdoorsman, maybe you had managed property for some time and you knew what kind of game was on there, and you'd had them patterned pretty good, and you was pretty confident in the fact that if you went out there, you could tell whoever you was with, you could say, well, this buck's going to come right out of this wood line here at approximately 6:07, and sure enough, the buck did, and they came out to the food plot and they grazed just like you said they would. You ever felt pretty confident in the fact that you was pretty well managed on that property, and you knew what was going to go on? I'd like to read some scripture right now, if I may, that kind of speaks about nature and what man's control over it is. Over in the book of Mark, chapter 4, we're going to start with verse 37. It says, "And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him, say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said unto one another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? You see, I myself am an outdoorsman. I love being outside. I love hunting whatever kind of critter may be in season. I like to bow hunt. I like to use a shotgun, a muzzleloader, a rifle. It doesn't matter. I enjoy just the time being outside. And I think the best time spent outdoors is the time with a gun in your hand. I'm a firm believer in that. But you see, there's times whenever I feel like I'm in more control than I am. I study a place, I set up cameras, and maybe I've got a food source there, and I've got a blind set up, and I feel really confident in what I'm going to harvest, and I just really feel strong in it, and every time that I've planned that, it never has worked out. There's been times whenever I really thought that everything was going to go smooth. For instance, I had a blind set up in an excellent area. I'd been feeding these deer and had them on cameras, and I kind of had them patterned out, and I had one come through, and just so God would let me know that he was in control of nature, I made a horrible shot, and the deer got away, and it was just barely wounded, and I had to learn a lesson from that. Whether you may say it's shot placement or be familiar with your firearm, it doesn't matter. I had to learn a lesson because God let me know that he was in control of all things, that I was in control of very little. You see, one thing that we must all question ourselves and remind ourselves about is that God is always in control over the big and the little things. He can calm the sea that is in a raging storm, an earthquake, a hurricane, a tornado. He can calm all that. He creates it. He knows it. He knows what time it's going to start and what time it's going to be over. He knows the damages that are going to occur in the midst of the storm. He knows all that. He can stop it on a moment's notice. And us, we get this big head because we are human. We are superior over animals. But we're no one superior over God. God gave us the dominion over the beasts of the land and the fowls of the air. And without him, we have no power. We are no master. We have a master, and we serve the master. And we have a companion. They say dog is man's best friend. I believe that. I have dogs, and I truly believe that dog is man's best friend, because no matter how much little time I spend with them, as soon as I'm out there with them again, they're right there on top of me because they crave that attention. They crave that desire to be around humans and to have that interaction with humans and mankind. And there's a story I'd like to share with you about a man who was just found out that he had malignant cancer. And there was no treatment that could be done. There was no surgeries that he could have done. It was the end of the line for him. And the doctor had him in his office, and he was real serious with him. And he let him know. He said, there's nothing else that I can do for you. He said, you've been a patient of mine for a long time, and I truly do. I truly am sorry, and I wish there was something I could do. But now, he said, all I can tell you is you need to make things right with God. However you plan to spend your eternity is what you need to start dealing with right now, because it's that time. And so the man he's truly upset, and he said, but I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to do something like that. And all of a sudden there was some noise down the hallway in the office, and there was something at the doorway of the office there that they was sitting in, and they could tell something was trying to get underneath the door, and the doctor started laughing. He said, "Hold on a second, sir, I'm going to have to excuse myself." And he walks over to the door, and as soon as he opens it up, a big old burly chocolate lab jumps up on top of this doctor and licks him in the face, and just, wrestles around with him. And the doctor spends a few moments with him there, and he sends him on his way, and he comes back and he apologizes, and he said, my dog, she just had some operations done at the vet, and I hadn't seen her in some time, and he said, my wife brought her by as she picked her up from the vet, and he apologized for being kind of rude there, and the sick person to get back to business. He said, but he said, back to my story. He said, I'm not sure what it is that I'm supposed to do now. And the doctor told him, he said, well, he said, think about my dog for a moment. He said, my dog had never been to my office. My dog had never been in the parking lot, had never been inside the door, had no clue what was on the other side of this door, but it could sense my presence. It knew that its master was on the other side of that door, and it wasn't scared to go through whatever it had to go through to get to me. And he said, it's the same thing with your spiritual life. I know for sure that when I die, my master's on the other side of this life. I will see my master, and I will be with my master. I can sense his presence on the other side of this door. Everyone has a master. Whether you choose to recognize that or not, God is in control over nature and all things. I would love to be able to say that I can control wildlife. If so, I would y'all would know me as a whole lot better of a hunter, because I would have an excellent trophy room, and I would have my own TV show, and I would have my own camo brand, and there would be commercials with my face all over them, because I would be a successful hunter. I do love to hunt and I love to fish, but I cannot guarantee when my hook hits that water that a 5-pound fish is going to bite it. I've never been able to do that, and you know what? The honest truth is, no matter how long I live and how many times and how many hours I spend out on the water, I'll never be able to guarantee that. God is in control over all things. Storms and sunny days and the lightning flashes and the big whole moon up in the sky, He's got control over all that. He can change it in a moment's notice. He can change it just whenever He decides to change it. God will always have a reason for what He does. We just won't know that. I don't know why God hasn't made me a huge trophy hunter. I don't know why God hasn't made me a great success in the outdoors business as much as I would like to be. I don't know why God's put what He's put you through. I don't know why I have faced turmoil. I don't know why you have faced turmoil. I don't know why decisions that you are facing right now are in your life at all. I don't know that. God knows that. If you find a minister somewhere that does know that and that can tell you that, I would like to meet that person, because that person has got something more going on than I do. As humans, all we are we're just patients. We're patients of the great physician. We're just sitting in this waiting room waiting on our time to be called. And when that time's called, then we go. I don't know your time and you don't know my time. I would love to say that I'm going to pick this gun up, load it, and turn around and see a squirrel and be able to make an excellent shot and have it for supper tonight, but I can't guarantee that. You know, you say, well, what's the purpose in carrying a gun on camera? What's the purpose of using this prop and standing out here in camo in the middle of nowhere? If you seen a guy in a suit with finely combed hair, do you think you would click on it? I've wanted to put something on the internet for some time, and now that I've got a camera and the means to do that, I figured this is the best way to do it. I'm not a fancy bigwig preacher. I don't claim to be, and I don't want to be. I'm just a guy that loves God, and I want to spread His word as much as I possibly can. I appreciate you watching this, and you can feel free to comment if you'd like, however you want to do. I hope you got something out of it. I'm not a fancy speaker by no means, but I do love God, and I love the great outdoors.